I've worked in today's video for PSO2 New Genesis. I'm just going to show you some things that you should be prioritizing in the seasonal event shop. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video for PSO2 New Genesis. In today's video, I'm just going to cover some things that you might want to be looking out for in the current seasonal event shop that we've got. So at the moment in NGS, we've got the spring event. So we've got all the cherry blossoms in the lobby and everything. Now, as part of this event, we have Xiandy. And Xiandy, like every other seasonal event, has a seasonal shop. This one in particular, there might be a few things that you want to prioritize with your seasonal points because there is some actually really nice stuff in it. So if we take a look at the shop, it has had a full refresh now, so we have the full set of items in the shop now. So if we have a look in the seasonal point shop, the first thing I'd look at, obviously is you have the SP Scratch tickets, which are for the limited time Spring Scratch. There are a few nice things in that, so if you are interested in anything in the Spring Scratch, there should be obviously a priority for you. Now, the way that this usually works is a lot of the items actually have 2 entries in the shop. So if we look down the bottom here, because I've already cleaned out some of the shop, you can see that you can get up to 20 of these spring tickets here for 1,000 seasonal points. And there's some for 5,000, some for 10,000. And now finally we have another batch here for 15,000 each. So they do get more and more expensive. So the first batch you get will be a lot cheaper than the later ones. You find it with a lot of the items in the seasonal shop. So quite often they will have multiple entries for different amounts of seasonal points. It's just to make it difficult to get the whole amount. So these really purely if you want anything from the spring scratch. So they're entirely up to you. There is a few panels and holograms that you can use for creative space and for putting holograms on the ground. Again, these are just little extras that you can add if you want to. I wouldn't say they're massively important though. However, if you are really big into the creative space, these might be a priority for you because they will be limited run. Next up, there is some accessories. So, for example, there's the head-mounted Rappy Pancakes, there is the Region Mag Cap, and there's some stamps and motions as well. So, again, a lot of these motions that you get in these shops are usually just recolors of existing ones that have already been in the game. So you can see here we've got the propeller engine one, and it's just a different color propeller engine, basically. There's also vital gauges. So these, if you don't know what a vital gauge is, it basically recolors where your health gauge is. So if you look at my health gauge now, so at the bottom here, you can see on my health gauge, I've got a picture of Ran. And this is what the vital gauges are. So they just add a piece of artwork behind your health gauge. So next up, we also have Star Gems. Obviously, the main use of the Star Gems is for the Star Gem Scratch, but there are a few other uses for them as well. This is going to come entirely down to whether you actually need Star Gems or whether you've got a large amount of them already. So, to be honest, they're not that expensive anyway, so I would probably just pick these up anyway. So I'm actually going to pick those up now just because it's not many Star Gems. It is only, 5 lots of 20, but anything you can get is better than nothing. There's also special scratch tickets. Now, I personally don't find these terribly useful. The main thing I use the special scratch for is just try and get the Star Gem tickets from it, because a lot of the stuff in the scratch isn't that useful, honestly. Next, so specific to this one, we have the Millennium Round series of weapons. Now, the advantage of these is that they are reasonably well augmented. So they've got Aegis Soul 4, Alt Secretor 4, Triple 2, Mastery 4, and they've also got one of the seasonal affixes as well. We're also at potential level 6, which is pretty handy. Now, they are only 9-star weapons, so they're not going to be as strong as some of your 10 stars. It definitely won't be as strong as the forthcoming 11 stars. The main use I can see for these is if you're wanting a cheap set of weapons for dual quests, so you could always get a set of these. You can get 2 of each weapon, so you could potentially, fit these out for dual quests if you wanted to. The reality is that you could probably honestly get Rare or Flugel Guards pretty cheaply now anyway. But these are another cheap option if you do want a very, very cheap option for dual quests. So next up, there's a few armors in the shop, which again are roughly the same affixes. So I would probably ignore the Qualda armor and the Sestato armor because they're pretty low level, honestly. There is some Ajax armor there, which you could use possibly for grind fodder maybe, but to be honest, I don't see many people using these. And you've got usual materials. These are dirt cheap and you can get quite a lot of them. It's usually about 100 per material. This I find somewhat useful for certain materials. So if we go back to what I've already bought, I personally bought all of the photon chunks and the photon chunk 2As and 2Bs because I find personally that when I'm adding potentials to weapons, I run out of photon chunks quite often. So having an extra little supply of those coming in, I think is really handy. So I tend to prioritize photon chunks quite early. We also have Blizzardium and Infernium. These I don't think are that useful anymore, particularly the Blizzardium. There might be very niche uses for them, but for the most part, I really don't think these are worth the points. Similarly for the Icicle Cubes and Icicle Orbs, although the Icicle Cube 2s and Icicle Orb 2s are useful now, honestly, you tend to get loads of them anyway just by hunting. So I don't necessarily think that these are a priority, but if you've got spare points left over, there might be something you want to dump some points into. We've got Growth Ment. So Growth Ment obviously are used to exchange primarily for the Vershmalt weapons. This again could be another way of making a very cheap dual set. So you could use these Growth Ment to get some Vershmalt weapons if you wanted to, and then use the Vershmalt weapons to make dual weapons. So this is another option you can go with, particularly with the current focus on dual quests as well. Obviously, one of the big money makers in the game at the moment is making Gland Gygas mass capsules, and to do that, you need to run Duel 1 and Duel 4. So if you can make a good dual set for Duel 1 and another one for Duel 4, it's going to make things a lot easier for you. There are dread scales, but honestly, I think most people have got a huge stash of these already, so again, I don't really think these are worth going for. We have X cubes and Master cubes. Again, I would probably ignore these for the most part. Arms refiners. Earlier in the game, I would have said, yeah, pick these up. But honestly, I feel like we've had so many arms refiners recently that I don't think the arms refiners are necessarily worth it anymore. Because it might be different for other people, but me personally, I've got a huge stash of arms refiners and arms refiner 2s now. There is some tier customization discs, and these could be pretty useful. So particularly the higher end ones, these are probably worth picking up if you are going to be customizing a lot of PRs, and particularly if you're leveling them up quite a bit. One of the big ones at the moment, though, is definitely the Defi capsules for Phase 4. So these Defi capsules, these are the dual capsules for the new Phase 4 dual quest. So for these, you can get 40 of each. So that essentially allows you to outfit one weapon and 3 pieces of armor. So you can make a full dual set. Now, they are quite expensive, so they are 3,000 points each. So if you get 40 of these, it's going to cost you 120,000 for each one of these capsules, and there are 6 different ones. So it's going to cost a ton of seasonal points to get these. However, because of that focus we've got on the dual quest at the moment, it might be worth investing in these and going for these early. We've also got quite a few other capsules as well. So a lot of them are the Lucille capsules, like High Ret Dominator LC, Grand Dreadkeeper LC, Gladiator LC. And again, for these, there's multiple entries for them at different point values. And you can get 20 of these for each entry. So essentially, you can get 40 Gladiator capsules from this. These are probably worth it, just purely to help you fix better for some of the, content in the game. Particularly if you're leveling a character up at the moment, you might want some cheaper fixes, and this is potentially an easy way of doing it. Some of them are quite expensive, and they tend to be 10,000 points each. So to get 20 of them, you are looking at 200,000 seasonal points. So it is a big investment. Honestly, if you are running the seasonal events, though, you can rack up the points quite quickly. So one important one is there is some of the Gigas Technique Precision and Might capsules. These are actually pretty useful for exchanging. So these are probably worth going for just because you can exchange these. I believe it's to make Gigas Mast. I could be wrong, but I think you make Gigas Mast by trading some of these in. So these are probably worth going with. You want gold prim armors and gold prim swords. Now, you can get 50 of these each. The advantage of these at the moment is you could turn these into Endemio capsules. So these, you could just buy 50 of them, turn them into 50 Endemio capsules, and then you've got some really good grind fodder. Alpha reactors, honestly, this just depends entirely on if you've got a lot of money or not. If you're needing some Zeta urgently, this is a really easy way of doing it. You can get 250 of the higher cost ones and 200 of the lower cost ones. So to get all of them, you're looking at 285,000 seasonal points. But this will give you a huge chunk of money. So if you are a bit short on cash, this is a good way of just replenishing it a little bit. I would definitely ignore the grinders, and I would definitely ignore the success rate increases. You get these success rate increases quite often anyway, and they're 2,500 points each, and you can only buy 4 of them, so it seems a bit pointless, honestly. So those are the main things I would go for, personally. The Float and Chunk 2As and 2Bs as well, because they are also used for level 6 potentials. So again, these are probably worth grabbing, just because you do tend to run out of the Float and Chunks quite often. So those are probably what I'd prioritize. So ideally, I would say maybe the Float and Chunk 2As and 2Bs, so you can use them for your potentials, because you do seem to run out of these a lot. Definitely the spring scratch tickets, just because they are limited time and there is some nice stuff in there that you won't be able to get once they've ended. Beyond that, probably the main one is probably those dual 4 capsules, just so you can take full advantage of that dual phase 4 quest that's on at the moment. So that's what I'd probably prioritize at the moment. It will differ depending on the seasonal event, so we're not going to have this constant focus on dual quests. Eventually the focus is going to shift somewhere else. So for the next seasonal event, it might be a totally different focus that you go for. But for the time being, because one of the big money-making ways in NGS at the moment is through those dual quests, it's probably a reasonable idea to stock up on those dual 4 capsules, make a dual set, perhaps with the Vershmod's weapons, and then at least you've got a dual 4 set that you can use to farm that boss a little bit easier. Because although it's not the hardest dual quest, it is significantly harder without the Deathy capsules. So I'll leave this one there. I know it's only a short video. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an insight as to what I think the best options are to go for. If you've got any other recommendations, just leave them below. I will try and answer any comments as well. So I typically do 2 videos a week. It's normally 1 video for NGS and then 1 video for an older Phantasy Star game like PSO or PSU. I also stream once a week on Sundays as well, which is usually playing either PSO or PSU as well. If you want to keep up to date with the channel, you can follow me on Twitter at Section Skylight, and I post whenever I'm going live on there. I'm also an NGS content creator as well, so if you want to keep up to date on NGS details, either follow me or one of the other content creators. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, or joining as a member, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.